So, have you ever felt like an emotional sponge? That strange, heavy feeling you get when you seem to just soak up the moods of everyone around you? Well, we're going to break down exactly why that happens and maybe more importantly, what you can do about it.
Yeah, this is a feeling I think pretty much all of us know, right? You're having a perfectly good day. You walk into a room and bam, your own emotional state just plummets. It's almost like walking through some kind of invisible force field of stress.
The sponge metaphor is just perfect. You feel heavy, you feel drained, you feel completely saturated with emotions that aren't even yours to begin with. It can be absolutely exhausting, and your day has barely even started.
Okay, so let's actually put a name to this thing because it is a very real phenomenon. We're calling it the emotional sponge effect.
So, the official term for this is emotional absorption. And it's really important to know this isn't just some vague feeling you have. Nope. It's a recognized experience where you unconsciously take on other people's emotional states. It's like they feel it, and then all of a sudden you feel it too. I love this analogy because it captures the feeling so perfectly. Even if nobody says a word, even if they're trying to put on a brave face, you can walk into that invisible cloud of heavy rain, all that tension, that sadness, that anger, and you're the one who ends up completely soaked. Okay, and this right here, this is probably the most important thing to hear. If this sounds like you, listen up. This is not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's got nothing to do with you being too dramatic. It is a genuine neurological and psychological experience, period.
All right, so why? Why does this even happen? Well, the first big reason comes down to how your brain is wired. And a great way to think of it is this: your brain is running in 4K. This is such a brilliant way to understand it. See, most brains might process a conversation in standard definition, right? They get the words, the basic idea, but a brain with what's called heightened sensory processing sensitivity, that brain is running in 4K Ultra HD. It's picking up everything. The tiny flicker of the lights, the almost unnoticeable shift in someone's tone, those tiny micro expressions, the unspoken tension in the air. It's processing a massive amount of extra data all the time. And hey, if this sounds like you are definitely not alone. According to some really foundational research by the psychologist Alina Aaron, this kind of deep processing 4K brain wiring is found in about 20% of the population. So yeah, it's a real significant chunk of people. It's funny because from an evolutionary point of view, this trait was actually a superpower. I mean, think about it. The person in the tribe who could notice those subtle signs of danger that everyone else missed, that person was invaluable. The problem is, in our noisy, hyper-connected modern world, that same superpower can lead to some serious overload. So, on top of your brain's high-def wiring, there's another really fascinating piece to this puzzle, what you could call the mirror in your mind. See, your brain has these incredible little cells called mirror neurons, and their job is basically to help you empathize by mirroring what other people are feeling and doing. So when you see someone smile, your mirror neurons fire off as if you were smiling, which helps you understand their joy. It's amazing stuff. And this breaks it down perfectly. Let's say a friend tells you, "I'm fine," but you can just hear that tightness in their voice. Well, for someone with highly active mirror neurons, your brain doesn't just observe that tension, it literally runs a simulation. It tries on that feeling to understand it better. And here's the real danger. If you don't have strong emotional boundaries, you end up not just understanding the feeling, but actually absorbing it. You start carrying it around like it's your own. So, as you can probably imagine, all of this is a ton of work for your brain, and it really is. There's a very real price you pay for being this tuned in to other people, a high cost of caring. And this is what it feels like, right? You have a simple, nice lunch with a friend who's a little stressed, and you walk away feeling like you are just completely wiped out, like you've run a marathon. That's because, on a neurological level, you kind of did. So, what's actually going on here? Well, there are two big ideas at play. The first is called co-regulation. This is where you unconsciously use your own calm nervous system to help stabilize someone else's. And the second is fawning, which is a stress response where you become hyper-aware of other people's moods, trying to keep the peace. Both of these, they take a huge amount of your own biological energy. Okay, so that's the problem. The big question is, what on earth do you do about it?
How can you protect yourself without just shutting down and turning off your empathy? Let's get into some practical strategies. All right, your first and maybe most powerful tool is just one simple question. The next time you feel a sudden, intense mood shift, I want you to just pause and ask yourself this. Seriously, just creating that tiny little bit of mental space can shift you from being totally overwhelmed to just being an observer. And the psychology here is just, it's so cool. See, the moment you label that feeling as absorbed instead of mine, you kick your brain's logic centers into gear. That simple act of relabeling it can immediately dial down the emotional intensity of whatever it is you're feeling. Okay, so what about in the heat of the moment? Here's a physical trick you can use. Find an anchor, something to ground you. Gently press your feet into the floor, really feel that solid ground underneath you. Then, maybe place a hand on your chest. These simple physical acts send a powerful signal straight to your nervous system, reminding it that you are safe and you are contained within your own body. So, at the end of the day, it's all about reframing this whole thing. Your deep empathy, your 4K brain, your super active mirror neurons, this is a gift. It really is. It lets you connect with people on a profound level. But like any powerful gift, it has to be protected. And please, let this one sink in. For anyone who feels like an emotional sponge, you often end up being the person who meets everyone else's needs. This is your official permission slip to remember that you are allowed to have needs of your own. And honestly, the biggest one is protecting your own peace. So I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Have you ever noticed a specific person or maybe a place that just always seems to drain your battery? Who or what is your emotional kryptonite? Because just noticing those patterns, that's the very first step toward getting your energy back.